One thing in crypto that always seems tricky is figuring out how to get the most out of your assets without, like, locking them down completely on one blockchain. You feel like you might miss out elsewhere.
Oh, definitely. It's a huge challenge. You got all these great ecosystems, but moving value between them, that's where the friction is.
Exactly. Well, today we're actually diving into a project that's trying to tackle that head-on.
Okay.
It's called StakeStone. Our source material describes it as an omnichain liquidity infrastructure. Bit of a mouthful.
It is, yeah. Omnichain liquidity.
So we're going to unpack what that really means for you listening. Based on this report we have, we'll look at their token, STO, their products like STONE, LiquidityPad.
Or traction, too, right? Funding, roadmap.
The whole picture.
Yeah, the whole thing. How they're trying to connect all these separate pools of liquidity. Okay, so omnichain liquidity infrastructure sounds big. But practically, what does that mean if I'm just trying to use my assets across different chains? Well, think of it like building bridges or maybe pipes between these different blockchain islands.
Yeah.
Instead of your crypto being stuck on, say, Ethereum, and you want to use it on Arbitrum or somewhere else, this infrastructure aims to make that move, well, seamless, or at least much easier.
So getting rid of those walled gardens we mentioned.
Exactly. It's about letting the liquidity flow where it's needed most, or where it can earn the best return.
And right at the center of this, it seems, is their token, STO. It's an ERC20 token. The report says you converted to something called Vesto for governance. Why do that?
Right. So STO is the main token, but locking it gives you Vesto. That VEF stands for vote escrowed, usually.
Oh, okay.
It's a common model, actually. The idea is that by locking your tokens, you get voting power. You can actually influence where the platform directs rewards.
Like which pools get more incentives.
Precisely. Things like emission allocations for StoneFi, BTCFi, LiquidityPad, you get a say. Also, protocol parameters, even the roadmap.
So it aligns incentives. If you lock tokens, you're in it for the long haul.
That's the goal, yeah. It encourages more thoughtful governance compared to just, holding a liquid token and voting maybe impulsively.
Okay, so it's not just about voting power then. Are there other perks to holding Vesto?
Oh, yeah, the report lists quite a few. You can get boosted yields if you're also providing liquidity in their system.
Boosted yield, okay.
Plus, there are bribe rewards. Other protocols might want Vesto holders to vote for their specific vault to get more STO emissions.
So they offer incentives, like bribes.
Sort of, yeah. It's a mechanism where protocols can attract votes, and the Vesto holders who vote for them get a cut of those incentives. And on top of that, Vesto holders get a share of ongoing STO emissions based on their votes.
Interesting. And what about this swap and burn thing? How does that fit in?
Right, the swap and burn, that's tied into how the protocol captures value. A portion of the fees generated across StakeStone.
From their products, like STONE.
Yeah, from STONE, LiquidityPad, etc. And also, a part of those STO-denominated bribes we just talked about, they get fed into this mechanism.
Okay.
Part of the STO from bribes gets burned, just removed from circulation forever, which, can make the remaining STO more scarce.
Potentially increasing its value.
Potentially, yes. And the other part of those bribes gets distributed directly back to the Vesto holders. So the more the platform is used, the more value theoretically flows back to those who've locked their tokens.
Makes sense. It creates this feedback loop.
Okay,
so STO is the core. Vesto gives power and rewards. Let's talk products. First up is STONE yield-bearing liquid ETH. What's different here? There are lots of liquid staking ETH options out there.
That's true. What StakeStone seems to emphasize with STONE is its adaptive staking network. It's not just tied to one way of staking ETH.
Adaptive, meaning?
It means it's designed to plug into different risk-free consensus layers. So think established proof-of-stake chains, maybe other liquid staking protocols too. The key is flexibility.
And it's non-custodial.
Correct. The report stresses it's trustless, non-custodial, managed by smart contracts and governed decentrally. So you get the yield, but the STONE token stays liquid and usable across DeFi.
Got it. And then LiquidityPad. This sounds like it's maybe not for individual users directly.
Yeah, that's aimed more at other projects, blockchain ecosystems, specific DeFi protocols.
What do they use it for?
It lets them set up their own customized liquidity vaults. So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach to attracting funds, they can tailor their own strategies using smart contracts.
Like if a new DX needs liquidity for a specific pair.
Exactly. They could use LiquidityPad to design incentives specifically for that pair, targeting the users they need. It's a more bespoke tool.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, and then I saw SBTC and StoneBTC bringing Bitcoin into this omnichain picture. How does that work?
Right. So SBTC is positioned as a liquid kind of index-like Bitcoin. The goal is just making BTC usable on other chains where it doesn't live natively.
Easier to move around in DeFi.
Exactly. And crucially, it's permissionless minting and redemption via smart contracts. Then you have STONEBTC, which adds a yield layer.
Yield on Bitcoin. That's always been a bit tougher than with ETH.
It has. STONEBTC aims to unlock that by integrating with things like Bitcoin restaking protocols, maybe DeFi strategies, and the report even mentions future plans for CeFi and real-world assets.
Wow. RWA's linked to Bitcoin yield.
Potentially, down the line. The idea is to generate yield while keeping the STONEBTC token liquid and usable.
So really trying to bring those Ethereum-style yield opportunities over to the Bitcoin world, that's ambitious.
It's a huge market, so yeah, definitely ambitious.
Now, speaking of traction, the report has some numbers from May 3rd, 2025, over 350,000 users, $3.6 billion in Stonebridge value. That sounds pretty significant.
Those are definitely eye-catching numbers. And what was it, 476 million transactions? 100-plus integrations across 20-plus chains?
Yeah, and over $500 million in TVL total value locked.
It certainly suggests they've gained real traction. I mean, those aren't small figures in this space.
What do you think drove that kind of adoption?
Well, network effects are powerful in DeFi. Getting those early integrations, offering good yields, that probably helped a lot. Market conditions likely played a role, too.
But we should be careful just looking at big numbers.
Always. It's good to ask, are those users active? Is that $3.6 billion bridged value measuring unique value or total volume over time? How sticky is that $500 million in TVL?
Right. Need to dig a bit deeper than the headlines.
Understanding the quality of that traction is key to judging sustainability.
Okay, so we've got the products, the token, the traction. How does it all tie together? Where do users actually, use this stuff and generate yield?
Right, the connections. So STONE, being liquid ETH, can be used in all sorts of DeFi protocols, lending, borrowing, providing liquidity on DEX.
Standard liquid staking use cases.
Pretty much. The report mentions specific integrations like StoneFi, Barachain Vault, Plume Vault, where you can deposit STONE for extra yield.
And StoneBTC.
Initially, the focus seems to be Bitcoin restaking protocols. So you earn yield on your Bitcoin while STONEBTC stays liquid. And they have those future plans for BTCFi, possibly using CeFi strategies for potentially higher yields.
Okay, and LiquidityPad fits in how?
LiquidityPad is sort of the backbone for custom strategies. Since it can handle ETH, BTC, stablecoins, and connect to different yield sources, POS, restaking, RWA, CeFi, it lets other protocols build very specific offerings.
So a project could use it to, say, attract stablecoin liquidity using yield from tokenized real estate.
Exactly. That's the kind of specialized use case it enables. DeFi strategies, RWA acquisition, on-chain validation pools. Lots of possibilities.
The report also touched on their token sales and economics. They did several funding rounds.
Yes. Seed strategy, pre-A, Series A, even a KOL round. Fairly typical for raising capital in crypto. The report breaks down the percentages allocated.
It gives the token metrics total supply, initial circulating.
Right. 1 billion STO total supply. And it makes an interesting distinction between the reported day one circulating percentage and the real float percentage.
What's the difference there?
The real float usually excludes tokens allocated to things like market makers who need them for exchange liquidity but aren't necessarily selling on day one. So it gives a potentially clearer picture of freely tradable supply initially.
Gotcha. And they allocated a fair chunk to airdrops, didn't they? Over 10%, including one for Binance users.
Yeah, airdrops are a classic way to decentralize the token holding and bootstrap a community. The analysis in the report showing vesting schedules and claim rates is useful too.
Gives you a sense of how that distribution is actually playing out over time.
Exactly, and listing the initial wallet addresses for community funds, treasury, that's good transparency.
So looking ahead, the roadmap seems packed. What's coming up soon?
Well, for Q2 2025, the focus is still on expanding that on-chain liquidity distribution. More integrations, probably.
Building out the network.
Right. Then Q3 looks big. A platform upgrade for better asset composability, maybe deeper links to RWA and CeFi. And importantly, launching their governance DAO using that V-token model.
So handing over more control to the community.
That's the idea. And then Q4 mentions AI-driven financial solutions for a payment app. That sounds like a longer-term, broader vision.
Interesting. Moving beyond just the core infrastructure.
Potentially, yeah.
And of course, if people want the nitty-gritty details, the report links to their Twitter, Medium, and the white paper.
Absolutely. The white paper is key for the deep technical stuff. Twitter and Medium for the latest news.
Okay, so wrapping this up, StakeStone is fundamentally trying to fix that fragmented liquidity problem across blockchains.
Yeah, using STO, Vesto, STONE, STONEBTC, LiquidityPad. It's a whole suite of tools.
And they seem to be getting some real traction with ambitious plans ahead.
It definitely looks like a significant player trying to improve capital efficiency across the board. Better yields for users, better liquidity for protocols. That's the promise.
It really does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How much could infrastructure like this change the game? If moving value between blockchains becomes truly seamless, what does that unlock for you, for the whole industry?
Yeah, what new strategies, what new efficiencies become possible when those walls really come down?
Definitely something to keep an eye on as you're navigating this space.